Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every nation's journey when silence is no longer an option, when neutrality feels like betrayal, and when standing tall, even amidst pressure, becomes not a choice but a duty. In 2025, we find Pakistan at a crossroad. The world is watching and wondering, why is Pakistan openly supporting Iran against Israel? But to answer that, we must go beyond headlines, beyond politics, beyond borders. We must go into the heartbeat of this nation. Pakistan was not built on silence. It was not born out of comfort. It was carved from sacrifice with the dream of standing for truth, for justice, and for the dignity of every human soul. Today, as Gaza bleeds and Palestine cries for mercy, we are not just observers. We are not just reading numbers and watching footage. We are feeling the pain as if it were our own, because it is our own. When Iran stands up not just with weapons, but with voice against the disproportionate use of force by Israel, Pakistan hears more than political rhetoric. It hears a moral call, and we are answering that call not because we are seeking conflict, but because we are seeking conscience. It's not about taking sides in a power game. It's about choosing the side of the oppressed. Yes, the world may call us bold. Some may even call us reckless. But if standing for the children of Gaza is bold, let us be bold. If speaking out for those who have no voice is reckless, let us embrace that risk. We support Iran's resistance not because we wish for war, but because we long for peace, a peace that is just, a peace that does not come at the cost of dignity, a peace that does not silence truth. This is not just Iran's fight, not just Palestine's fight. This is a fight for every human heart that still feels, for every soul that still believes in the power of standing up when the world sits in silence. Dear listeners, our strength is not in our weapons. It is in our will. Our courage does not come from military might, but from the depth of our compassion. Pakistan stands today not just behind Iran, but beside the oppressed, the displaced, the voiceless. And we will continue to do so, not because it is easy, but because it is right. And when the world writes this chapter in history, may it never say that Pakistan stood still when the world burned. May it say, we rose, we spoke. We stood not against a nation, but for humanity. Thank you. Pakistan's support for Iran in 2025 is not just a reaction to a passing geopolitical moment. It is deeply rooted in the shared religious, cultural, and regional context that has evolved over decades. Both countries, though having their unique national identities and internal dynamics, share a long history of cooperation and understanding, particularly in the face of external threats and regional instability. This support has gained visibility and intensity in the recent Israel-Iran escalation, where Pakistan's alignment with Iran reflects more than political convenience. It represents a convergence of interests, values, and an enduring sense of Islamic solidarity. Historically, Pakistan and Iran have enjoyed a multifaceted relationship. Despite periods of tension, especially over sectarian differences and regional influence, both countries have often found themselves on the same page when it comes to broader Muslim unity. This unity has taken on a renewed significance in 2025, where the ongoing suffering in Gaza and the broader Palestinian crisis has intensified the emotional and ideological bonds among Muslim-majority nations. Pakistan, a country born in the name of Islam and deeply invested in the idea of the global Muslim Ummah, has always felt a natural inclination to respond to any act of aggression against Muslim populations. The suffering in Gaza is viewed not just as a political issue, but as a humanitarian and spiritual crisis, one that calls for collective action and moral courage. Iran, long positioned as a strong voice of resistance in the Middle East, especially against Israeli actions in Palestine, has increasingly become a symbol of defiance in the Muslim world. Its open opposition to Israeli policies and unwavering support for the Palestinian cause have found resonance among populations across the region. Pakistan's open support for Iran, therefore, is not merely a bilateral gesture, but part of a larger narrative, a reaffirmation of Muslim unity in the face of what is seen as collective oppression. This stance also aligns with public sentiment within Pakistan, where support for the Palestinian cause runs deep across political, ethnic, and sectarian lines. In this atmosphere, Iran's assertive policies are seen not as antagonistic, but as brave and morally upright. In regional terms, both Iran and Pakistan are situated in a highly strategic and volatile zone. The Middle East and South Asia have for years been theaters of proxy wars, shifting alliances, and foreign interventions. In this complex environment, countries like Pakistan must carefully weigh their alliances, not just based on immediate economic or diplomatic benefits, but also on long-term strategic calculations. With the changing global order and the visible decline in influence of traditional Western powers in certain regions, there is a growing need for regional countries to rely on each other for mutual support and security. Iran, despite being heavily sanctioned and politically isolated by the West, remains a powerful regional actor with significant influence in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. For Pakistan, developing closer ties with such a country offers strategic depth and the opportunity to balance its foreign policy beyond traditional allies. Religiously and culturally, Pakistan and Iran share bonds that go beyond politics. The two countries are home to millions of Shia and Sunni Muslims who, despite the sectarian challenges, continue to coexist and share religious festivals, heritage, and a common Islamic narrative. The Persian influence on Pakistani culture, particularly in language, poetry, and architecture, is undeniable. This shared cultural space creates an emotional affinity between the two peoples, which helps soften political tensions and allows for greater diplomatic flexibility. Moreover, the emergence of the Abraham Accords and the normalization of ties between some Muslim countries and Israel has left a void in traditional support for the Palestinian cause. In this context, Iran's steadfast position, though controversial, is seen as consistent and principled by many. Pakistan, which has refused to normalize relations with Israel without a just solution for Palestine, finds itself ideologically closer to Iran than to many of its Arab counterparts. This ideological proximity, driven by shared values and public pressure, naturally pulls Pakistan toward Iran in times of conflict. Another critical dimension is the defense and security concerns both countries share. With increasing threats of destabilization in the region due to insurgencies, foreign interventions, and sectarian violence, cooperation between Pakistan and Iran becomes essential. Border security, intelligence sharing, and coordinated responses to cross-border threats are mutual concerns that have historically brought the two closer in times of need. Not XJUST because of how magnificent, MESC the DIFFERING entire region. Pakistan's support can also be seen as a preventive measure, stability and deterring foreign escalation. Economic interests, though not the primary factor, also play a role. Pakistan, facing internal economic challenges and an energy crisis, sees Iran as a potential partner in energy cooperation through projects like the long-discussed Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline. While external pressures, particularly from Western countries, have hindered progress, the shifting global balance in 2025 opens new possibilities. With alternative power blocs emerging and China's increasing presence in the region, Countries like Pakistan feel more empowered to pursue independent foreign policies without fearing traditional backlash. In conclusion, Pakistan's support for Iran against Israel in 2025 is the result of a complex interplay of religious affinity, regional strategy, cultural closeness, and ideological solidarity. It is not a reactionary move, but a reflection of a deep-rooted alignment that has matured over decades. In a world where alliances are rapidly changing and moral clarity is often blurred by political convenience, Pakistan's stance serves as a reminder that sometimes history, faith, and shared values can matter more than short-term diplomacy. In a world increasingly ruled by political self-interest, shifting alliances, and transactional diplomacy, Pakistan's open support for Iran in the conflict with Israel in 2025 cannot simply be reduced to strategic calculations. It cannot be viewed purely through the lens of regional power dynamics or military alliances. To understand the heart of Pakistan's position is to understand its moral compass. A compass calibrated not by convenience but by conscience, not by pressure but by principle. The foundation of this support lies in deeply rooted humanitarian values and the timeless Islamic teaching that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. For Pakistan, the conflict in Gaza is not a foreign affair, it is a human affair. It is not a news segment that flashes briefly on screens. It is a wound on the soul of humanity. When children lie buried under the rubble, when hospitals are bombed, and when prayers are silenced by missiles, Pakistan does not see just another war. It sees a crisis of morality that demands not silence but action. This is why Pakistan's position in 2025, though questioned and criticized by many, remains firm. It is not dictated by the fear of isolation or sanctions. It is dictated by the belief that to remain silent in the face of cruelty is to become complicit in it. Moral clarity in a time of global ambiguity is rare, but Pakistan chooses to hold on to it. This nation, born from the ashes of colonial injustice, knows what it means to be unheard. It knows the cost of oppression, the pain of being voiceless, and the long road to freedom. And so, when it sees the Palestinian people enduring decades of occupation, displacement, and systematic violence, it cannot look away. Supporting Iran's stance is, in many ways, standing up for a voice in the Muslim world that refuses to bow down to the normalization of injustice. Iran may be controversial in the eyes of the West, but in the streets of Gaza, Beirut, and Karachi, it is seen as a nation that does not abandon the oppressed. Pakistan, by aligning itself with that voice, signals to the world that it too will not prioritize comfort over conscience. This support is not an endorsement of every Iranian policy or act. Rather, it is a recognition of shared anguish, shared outrage, and a shared yearning for justice. It is also important to acknowledge that Pakistan's stance is deeply influenced by the collective emotions of its people. This is a democracy where public sentiment matters, and in every corner of the country, from mosques to markets, from villages to universities, the suffering of the Palestinian people is not just observed, it is felt. The images from Gaza are not distant headlines, they are personal stories. The cries of mothers who have lost their children echo in the hearts of Pakistani mothers. The destruction of homes resonates with a people who know what it means to fight for a homeland. The bond is spiritual, emotional, and profoundly human. There is another layer to Pakistan's position, the belief in universal human rights, the belief that every life, regardless of faith, nationality, or geography, holds equal value. Pakistan's support for Iran's resistance against Israeli aggression is framed not only in Islamic Brotherhood, but in the universal principles of justice, dignity, and freedom. This is not about taking sides in a religious war. This is about taking a stand where others choose to stay neutral. And history will not remember neutrality. It will remember courage. It will remember who stood and who stayed silent. Pakistan's message to the world is not a call to arms. It is a call to awareness. It is a plea to the international community to see beyond economic interests, to hear beyond diplomatic statements, and to feel beyond political alliances. Because at the end of the day, we are not judged by how many friends we made in power, but how many lives we stood for in pain. In supporting Iran's defense of the Palestinian cause, Pakistan may lose temporary favors. It may attract criticism. It may face pressure, but it will never lose its soul, and that, in today's world, is everything. So let history take its course. Let nations choose their paths, but let it be known, Pakistan chooses humanity. Pakistan chooses justice. Pakistan chooses to stand, not with the powerful, but with the powerless, not with the aggressors, but with the oppressed. Because in the eyes of this nation, silence is no longer neutral, silence is betrayal, and that Pakistan will never accept.